Stratfor, one of the leading intelligence websites and magazines available, has done a report on what they believe will take place and what the future could hold for the Middle East once the U.S. troops are taken out of Iraq come the end of the year. And they write, U.S. troops are in the process of completing their withdrawal from Iraq by the end of 2011 deadline. We are now moving toward a reckoning with the consequences. The reckoning concerns the potential for a massive shift in the balance of power in the region, with Iran moving from a fairly marginal power to a potentially dominant power. As the process unfolds, the United States and Israel are making countermoves. Questions remain whether these countermoves will stabilize the region and whether or how far Iran will go in its response. Iran has been preparing for the U.S. withdrawal. While it is unreasonable simply to say that Iran will dominate Iraq, it is fair to say Tehran will have tremendous influence in Baghdad, to the point of being able to block Iraqi initiatives Iran opposes. This influence will increase as the U.S. withdrawal concludes and it becomes clear there will be no sudden reversal in the withdrawal policy. Iraqi politicians' calculus must account for the nearness of Iranian power and the increasing distance and irrelevance of American power. Resisting Iran under these conditions likely would prove ineffective and dangerous. Some, like the Kurds, believe they have guarantees from the Americans and that substantial investment in Kurdish oil by American companies means those commitments will be honored. A look at a map that was shown on the website, however, shows how difficult it would be for the United States to do so. The Baghdad regime has arrested Sunni leaders, while the Shia, not all of whom are pro-Iranian by any means, know the price of over-enthusiastic resistance. Iran is, of course, used to psychological campaigns. We continue to believe that while Iran might be close to a nuclear device that could explode underground under carefully controlled conditions, its ability to create a stable, robust nuclear weapon that could function outside a laboratory setting, which is what an underground test is a ways off. This includes being able to load a fragile experimental system on a delivery vehicle and expecting it to explode. It might not. It might even be intercepted and create a causa belli for a counterstrike. The main Iranian threat is not nuclear, actually. It might become so, but even without nuclear weapons, Iran remains a threat. The current escalation originated in the American decision to withdraw from Iraq and was intensified by events in Syria. If Iran abandoned its nuclear program tomorrow, the situation would remain as complex. Iran has the upper hand, and the United States, Israel, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia all are looking at how to turn the tables. At this point, they appear to be following a two-pronged strategy. Increase pressure on Iran to make it recalculate its vulnerability and bring down the Syrian government to limit the consequences of Iranian influence in Iraq. Whether the Syrian regime can be brought down is problematic. Libya's Muammar Gaddafi would have survived if NATO hadn't intervened. NATO could intervene in Syria, but Syria is more complex than Libya. Moreover, a second NATO attack on an Arab state designed to change its government would have unintended consequences, no matter how much the Arabs fear the Iranians at the moment. Wars are unpredictable. They are not the first option. Therefore, the likely solution is covert support for the Sunni opposition funneled through Lebanon and possibly Turkey and Jordan. It will be interesting to see if the Turks participate. Far more interesting will be seeing whether this works. The Syrian intelligence has penetrated its Sunni opposition effectively for decades. Mounting a secret campaign against the regime would be difficult and a success by no means assured. Still, that is the next move. But it is not the last move. To put Iran back into its box, something must be done about the Iraqi political situation. Given the U.S. withdrawal, Washington has little influence there. All of the relationships the United States built were predicated on American power protecting the relationships. With the Americans gone, the foundation of those relationships dissolves. And even with Syria, the balance of power is shifting. The United States has three choices: accept the evolution and try to live with what emerges, attempt to make a deal with Iran, a very painful and costly one, or go to war. The first assumes Washington can live with what emerges. The second depends on whether Iran is interested in dealing with the United States. The third depends on having enough power to wage a war and to absorb Iran's retaliatory strikes, particularly in the Strait of Hormuz. All are dubious, so toppling al-Assad is critical. It changes the game and the momentum, but even that is enormously difficult and laden with risk. We are now in the final act of Iraq, and it is even more painful than imagined. Laying this alongside the European crisis makes the idea of a systematic crisis in the global system very real. Frankly, I believe that the U.S. will choose the first option, which is to live with a nuclear Iran. I don't believe that Iran believes that it is necessary for them to make a deal with the United States at this point in time. At this time, the future is very unpredictable, and we may be heading for somewhat of a perfect storm with the European crisis and the trouble in the Middle East that needs to be resolved. Is this perfect storm what will bring about the Antichrist, or are we years away from that being realized still yet? Of course, we at this point in time don't know the answer to that question, but if Bible prophecy is any telltale sign, it looks as though we are heading toward that collision in the sooner than later near future. This is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.